We know that criminal law basically talks about punishment, that is the offender, the criminal, that is to prevent the further crimes in future, and so that people in the society live peacefully. Criminal law in India consists of majorly IPC, because that is Indian Penal Code, as well as the procedure, that is a substantive law. If we talk about the procedure law, it is the CRPC. But parallelly, if we have other substantive laws, we have NDPS, we have POCSO acts, we have so many acts. But at large, if we take 511 sections, which is codified one criminal law, which India totally relies on it for bringing the offenders under the act, that is IPC, so which was under that is 1860. So there are various crimes and punishments which are already enshrined there. And also, when substantive law and procedural law we also have an adjunctive law to bring underline, that is evidence, Indian Evidence Act 1872. So here, when the system, we have codified laws which talks about the trial procedure, that if an offender is brought, so how what is the end is the justice system. See, today we have, with advancement of technology, and we also see that offenses were codified and the trial procedure is totally laid down. But the administration of justice was not easy because of the change in circumstances of the society, as well as it is not that reliable. I tell you, the present criminal justice system in India, which was established by British India. See, today, if we talk about how the system came into existence, we have to thank the British East India Company, that is during the pre-independence era, for gifting us these codified laws. But however, I tell you, that is after independence that there were many changes and modifications. We know that even after Nirbhaya's case 2013, we brought so many amendments to criminal laws. But I tell you, there were also various committees which was formed time to time for recommendations, that is to bring change. We know that society keeps changing, and now the gravity and the changes which is we can see in crime, the seriousness is too much that we come into a conclusion that people are not no more further scared of how a crime will have to be committed. People think that it is easy to walk out from the jail, or easy to get free from the clutches of the justice, because the punishment system or the court system is not that strict. Or what is that? See, time to time, for a country like India, I tell you, if there is no control of these crimes, definitely there would be people would lost their hope on the justice system. One thing I would like to bring is, what is the last resort in India? See, last resort for a common man to reach is court system. He might have tried everything. If he's an influential person, he would approach all influenced people to influence them for getting it solved. But when everything fails, it is the court which they approach. That is to the authority of the functionaries. I tell you, the first functionaries we talk about, we maybe the police authority, maybe again prison authorities, then we have court system, prosecution, all that. But it is through the police, that is in the criminal system, that is criminal justice system, that a common man reaches the court for the justice. So this is at the end. You don't expect somebody at the initial stage only to approach. There are, but it is very minimal. But I tell you, we have there are 4 different types of trial procedure in Indian criminal justice system. With this, we need to understand, because during practice, that is when we talk about pre-trial, that is pre-trial is totally with the police station, that is registration of FIR, and charges are framed by accused, like charges are framed against the accused, I'm sorry. And also, whose duty is it to prove? It is the prosecution, and accused will be given the chance. Why? Because we have constitution. These codified laws are not studied in a separate form, because it has to go hand in, that is under the laws, that is the provisions of constitution, which cannot violate the rights of accused. So here, and also importantly, we should not miss out that the defense counsel, that is we advocates, also play a very important role in criminal justice system, because it is the right of an accused to get engaged the counsel of his choice. And I tell you, before we talk about the what are the basic components of criminal justice system, because the social justice, can be totally availed to by a common man if we have if we know the strong components which the criminal justice system is controlled. Before that, what are the fundamentals we talk about? See, fundamental principles of modern criminal law, if I have to take it up. See, you know that the components of crime comes into picture. So I need not necessarily mention that mens rea, all that which we study in law, it is major that during the trial, it is the prosecution which has to prove as a fundamental basics that beyond the reasonable doubt on the accused to prove it. And I tell you, till accused is proved guilty, he is presumed by the court till the conviction he is innocent. And it is the prosecution. These are very basic, I can say, the fundamental components which has to be borne in mind. And if I have to come to the components, as I earlier mentioned, see, what are the components of criminal justice system? Are we really safe in a country like India, a democratic country like India, where fundamental rights are guaranteed, where constitution controls the entire country, it maybe, and also the rest other, all the three organs of the country? Are we really safe? Is the justice really served to each and every individual, even though constitution talks about Article 14, equality, and also Article 21, which is right to liberty and freedom? I tell you, we have in criminal justice system the components as well as the functionaries we actually call in CRPC, which are the major which control the system. That is firstly the police. We know that the first authority whom a common man would reach when he is at the situation is police. And after police, it is the prison authorities, because the offender is kept safe, or he is confined, I can say, more than confining, we say it's a safe custody for the offender till he's proved guilt. So prison authorities play a very important role as a component here. And also next is the prosecution department. That is again the government prosecution department, which is represented by the complainant, that is nothing but the state. And fourth, you all know that it is the court. So after these three mandately follow the rules, it is the court which decides. And at last, the major work is on the defense counsel, that is we advocates. So if I have to just give you a brief, like, we have a notion that is predetermined notions in our mind when we say police. So when I say police, you know that it is you're aware that in the directive principles of state policy, that state has the positive duty to ensure the safety of its citizens and to maintain peace and harmony, all that in the society. Yes. Is that only confined to books, or is it promised to a citizen in outside the books as well? See, it is the duty to fulfill by the police forces, that in the country internally, I tell you, internally, and as well as to protect external from the external forces. So police are one important functionaries in the criminal justice system, where a normal citizen would approach so that to maintain law and order in the society. So I tell you, it protects citizens from violence, oppression, and as well as a disorder. So we might have experienced this especially during the COVID time, how difficult it was for the police to control each and every individual from getting out of the house, and to control them from violating these quarantine rules. I tell you, when we have Police Act, where it is by the separate legislation which has been passed, that Police Act controls these police person from exercising their duties. But still, we see that the modern police have more functions, just other than protecting the citizens. We come across, like, you might be knowing that regulating traffic is also police, and protecting a juvenile, that is below 16, who is taken under custody for a serious offense or an offense which is punishable by law, and protecting them also, and as well protecting the interest of weaker section, and investigating crime, where they have been enshrined with so much of functions that other than protecting the interest of individuals, they also have the administrative work, they also have the court work to be done. See here, pre-independence era, if we talk about, we were like, importance of strong police system was more concentrated. Why? Because during pre-independence, independence, the recommendations which were made by the law commission, that a strong society can function only if there is a strong police system in the country. That is very aptly true. So police are, it is maintained and controlled by the states of the Indian Union. And also I tell you, there are vertical divisions of like armed force, unarmed branch of forces. So we have different, you can see Delhi Delhi police have different force, they're called with different forces, but it is still controlled by union. So when we say police have different functions under the code, that is CRPC, or under which they have it under Police Act, that is surveillance, very important. And also making a arrest is one, lodging FIR, registering FIR is one major duty which they have to, and releasing, investigating, and also interrogation. Interrogation is a very important part where accused is taken into, or it may be with the witness, that police mandatorily have to perform their duties. But coming to the current scenario, don't you think when we hear the term police, the notion itself changes? We have a different notion that, oh, police, we don't have a further answer, but we stop there because it is predetermined that police are something else. Why this notion? Why? Because they have been exceeding their powers and functions, where it is total violation of fundamental rights of accused as well as normal citizen, by it may be denial of registration of FIR, denial of registering a complaint, or unnecessary harassing the citizens for, even though there is no violation of traffic, all these. But I tell you, there are need for reforms. It is now time to bring certain reforms and changes, that police definitely have mandatory duties, and that is under criminal justice system. Firstly, you know that custodial deaths, there have been many instances of this custodial rapes and custodial deaths. I myself have, in my own conduction of trial, I have 4 cases of custodial death, that is rash and negligent act of this warden and police people when they were interrogating. See, when I was talking to my client, I just said custodial death, a person is under your safe custody, and when your action is too much, how do you justify it? And the answer they gave is, anyhow, he was a rowdy sheeter. So just because he was a rowdy sheeter, can you get into such an extent, your act get into such an extent that it takes away the life of a person, just because he was a negative element in the society? This is the time to check these acts also. So there is a need to make police force that is transparent and accountable for their work. This reform is very important. That's why we do have certain reforms which is brought. And also I tell you, these political parties and leaders, they have started using the police force for their benefits. You know that it is because of the police station, the transfers is scared of, and political influence is so much that police are more scared of for not functioning as per their acts. And you know that a major lack of female police in in the total society, I can say. Why? Because they're unable to fulfill their duties. Police forces, they shortage, there is no notification for call for of it. So there is immense shortage of lady staffs, not only lady staffs, I tell you, even the police persons male also, there is a long shortage. Why? Because the government is not able to fulfill the post in the states. And I also tell you that infrastructure and weapon, and they lack in their physical test. See, somewhere every 7 years once they will have physical test conducted, but how many police officers you think are really fit in functioning? But again, when we talk about infrastructure and weapon, somewhere the offense is reported, till police reach, you don't know how early or late it is. So they must be provided with modern technology. Why? Because nowadays cyber crime is at the peak. You know that once the cyber crime happens in just in 2 to 3 seconds, or even 10 minutes, just share an OTP and entire your amount is looted. Once you go to police, it takes so many days to just get an complaint registered. If you have if anyone of you have tried it, I know the grievance. Why? Because police people lack in technology for speedy investigation and interrogation. You never know, even sometimes the accused has left the region at all. And also, I tell you, the trust deficit, that is, people are somewhere, I told you, oh, police. Why is that does it come to our mind? Because police and corruption and lack of seriousness is where police lack it. So it amounts to criticism because we feel that there is a strong need in the police system in the country to be reformed. Otherwise, I think we will somewhere lag behind for a progressive society. See, we have National Police Commission, which was recommended, that is in 1977. Yes, recommendations. What was that recommendation? Is judicial inquiry in case of death, that is custody only, if there is if a person commits rape, or in custody there is a death, then judicial inquiry has to be fixed against them. This is one positive reform which was brought. Even now that is there in force. But police are not scared of these inquiries because it is just a departmental inquiry. And I tell you, where there is no penal provision, departmental inquiry is where they may suspend you, where they may remove you from your service. But we need a stronger reform, which police are brought under IPC, under the criminal law, for being punished. So police must be made sensitive towards the marginalized section of the society. So what is this marginalized section? I call it as, it may be women, it may be also children, it may also be the third gender, because today the perspective, we are trying to change the mindset of people to accept the third gender with us. But when they go to police station, the way they treat them is totally different. So it is the recommended replacing the police act with a new act, but still we are under the form of bringing new replacements. And also we have Malimat committee, which was also appointed, that police have to maintain law and order, otherwise penal provision and strong security. And also that is extension of period of police custody from 30 days to 90 days was made, especially in serious offenses of rape, murder, and other cases. We see that from 30 days, it was extended to 90 days. And also, if you remember, if we try to bring up, Supreme Court has also given guidelines in various cases, that is in 2006, 2015, that police have to be under the check and balances. So always to keep a check on police, that the Supreme Court had given guidelines that who is that? That is the DGP. We have transparent based process. DGP heads that, and every like 2 years, tenure of police officials must only 2 years they'll be in a current police station, and you know that it is next transfer. So always there should be, that is the function of law and order and investigation. We have separate. That crime department works separately, and law and order works separately. So, and also lastly, under police, it is the National Security Commission, which is set up at the central level, and they're responsible for panel in the selection of these officers, that is the IPS it may be. And also in states also we have been established, that is police complaint authorities, they where in each districts they can also now online complaints can also be raised when police deny taking that in police station. So I tell you, it's high time that the procedure CRPC mandates the duties of police have to work under the that is procedure code in this way. Otherwise it is total violation, that is fraud on constitution as well as violation of fundamental rights of accused. So police today we have brought them under the surveillances because of so many reforms, but still it is still, I can say, not a positive hope to normal public to have a belief and trust on the police that justice would definitely, they would take us near the justice. And next authority that, or I can say a functionary importantly for the social justice, is prison authorities. See, that prison is a place where offenders are kept, that is under the trial, and even after the sentence is being pronounced, it may be for life or it may be for some years. Prisons have been, that during from the British model, we have few prisons which are constructed by British. So it was an object. What was the object of this establishment of prisons? See, that is the deterrent power, that so that the other offenders, so other persons are scared of committing an offense, so that they are confined here. So prisoners nowadays are treated so inhumanly. I was talking about custodial deaths. So custodial deaths are so common nowadays that during the investigation, during the interrogation, and also during the under trial, that is when the trial is pending, they are subjected to inhuman treatments where they end up in their deaths. So the prison inquiry committee was also set up, that is in British time only, and this abolition of these practices were made. But still, I tell you, there is no change, especially due to illness and unhealthy environment. See, there the treatment to prisoners is so, that is especially the unsanitary conditions of prisons. Nowadays, when there is every judge, that is the magistrate, has to visit the jails every once in a week. That is the reason they're trying to maintain the prison in a good form. Otherwise, I tell you, it was so unhealthy, and many people get infected by the diseases which is contagious. And I tell you, need of proper food. And inside the prison only, there are so many atrocities which happens to the prisoners, and also the medical treatment. Until unless there is something very serious to the offender, that is the under trial or the prisoner, they don't get the medical treatment there. But in papers we see that accused has been subjected to medical examination on request, all that. But in practical, it does not happen. The Prison Act 1894 mandates that they have to give them, that is the medical care, due medical care. But there is no changes that in prison, because nobody is there to check them. It is the security which prohibits outside people to get into. And I also tell you, what are the reforms that we are now working towards in the country like India, that is for the prison safety. See, their own regulations and administrations are there in prison. Why? Because the prison authorities are under Prison Act, and it is not controlled by any of them, that is only by the state. So act classifies the prisoners under trials differently. So what happens is, despite these changes, there are no improvements today in the prison conditions. The illegal activities, it may be narcotic drugs which is being supplied in the prison, as well as we try to see that other illegal activities, they can access phone. Many of my clients, after the jammer is off, they contact their advocates. After the jammers are off, we automatically get the calls from the prison stating that what is the status of the case, what is that. They're able to contact their family members also. And VIP cell is separate, where VIPs are given a separate luxury cells, even though they are the under trial and offenders, and the normal. Why this discrimination? No priority was given to the administration of prisons in any of the government when they came into power. The promising is on making changes on so many systems, bringing strict laws. But I tell you, in administration of prison today also, the condition is very pathetic. That I can say you, well, firstly, the survey which is taken, the prisons, that is the jails, there is overcrowdedness in the jails. And overcrowdedness, because you know that crime rates are not reducing, not declining, and also delay in trial. You know that 6-7 years the trial, after 3 years the trial commences. And also inhuman treatment in the prison to the prisoners, then neglecting the health and hygiene, and also deficiency in, that is, communication, and like need to manage streamline of this jail visits. So all these reforms are important, but nobody are trying to bring any changes in this, because there is a legislation which has to, after the committee recommendations, they have to implement it, but we have failed. But various reforms, I can say that government, time to time, now the report every month, every 4 months, the report has to be submitted by the superintendent of the prison, that about the improvements that they are trying to bring. And also some recreations, like they on Independence Day, on Republic Day, and also some functions, like even they call upon these theater practice people to enact. And also all these recreations, some music, some functions are organized from the outsider, so that some recreation is also made for people inside. These changes were brought because that is all India Jails Committee which was formed, that is Mullah Committee, Justice Mullah who had headed this. From that time they said that mandatory that these reports have to be submitted to their home department, where people need rehabilitation and prohibition laws, which has to be more in focus. So today, allowing media to jail visits were also made under this committee. But you know that inside, once you're entering the jail, all your access to general public will be cut. But it said that media have to be allowed to visit. But today also it is not prohibited. It was just a recommendation. And also in 1988 also we had Justice Krishna Iyer's committee, where prison rules to be changed. But now, what were the changes after that? I can tell you is, they maintain a separate register, where in that register they maintain that is the person's age, if he is male and female, and also age, medical checkup, what was their BP. So the entire record will be maintained. And also for juvenile, the person who is sent to juvenile board, and also for them also juvenile offender, if he is again under the normal prison with adults, because in very serious offenses. So under trials will be must be in a separate cell. And also narcotic people with serious and people who are convicted, for them separate cell. All these registers have to be maintained. And women prisoners, for them they have to be like, that is prenatal and postnatal care and treatment is very mandatory. Sometimes when she's subjected to conviction, she might be in her third month or fourth month of her pregnancy, and it is very mandatory at the expenditure of the state. Now the state government takes care of her postnatal and prenatal treatment, which is mandatory nowadays. Even the creches in the prison for the children has to be arranged, the Supreme Court guidelines. Such a beautiful recommendation which was made. And also periodical inspection, that the concerned magistrate goes to on a periodical thing, he go and he checks what is the status of the jail, whether what type of food is served, how the food is prepared. Everything is checked by the jurisdictional magistrate. So, and also there are so many judicial pronouncements that practice of that is handcuffing, inhuman treatment, handcuffing and leg cuffing was also done, which violates Article 21. And in what cases can they handcuff? All that guidelines time to time was given. Why? Because to improve the condition of the prisoners and healthcare facilities for them. And further, this is of where this is completely of the government's two organs which function as a pillar to the criminal justice system. Another one important in the court, this is before they enter into the court, they have no much role in the court, but once they enter into the court system, it is the next department, I can say, or it is the prosecution as a functionary, which is very important. Because it is that crime is always committed against a society at large. So it is, even though it is not against a particular person, but it is considered to be punishable. Why? Because it is committed against the society at large. So when victim suffers in the hands of criminal, it is totally that the other people, if something happens in our locality, we don't have that free mind. Even we are put in the fear, that creates a fear in the public at large. So the state takes its cognizance of the case, and it is the duty of the state to maintain law and order in the society. So that's why we have police. But here, whenever crime leads to disturbance, I tell you, state becomes the party, and it is represented by public prosecutor like an agent. So public prosecutor is an agent, where as an agent under section 24 of CRPC talks about public prosecutor. So here the public prosecutor under CRPC is being appointed by state government, and he has various functions and duties to be performed. But I tell you, it is very painful. Like, as a practitioner, I have been into the system, from practice system, since almost like 8.5 years, and I see the prosecution department to be the most weak at as an functionary in the society. Why? Because there is first thing is there are no such qualified public prosecutors, and also the interest they take defending the state is very minimal. That is why most of the accused set free, because prosecution is not able to prove the accused beyond the reasonable doubts. But CRPC mandates that it is the mandatory duty of the public prosecutor to maintain each and every case file which is allotted to him. And it also appears that he has to argue on behalf of victim. And also victim, that is, it is because he's the one who represents the victim, and ensure that aggravated punishment is till last. What happens is, starting they may object for the bail, starting they may show keen interest because of the pressure of the government. Later they stop even coming to the court or taking the same interest, because whom it is going to affect is definitely the victim. So I tell you, it is the duty of the public prosecutor to fight to aggravate that punishment which the accused definitely deserves, because public have hopes only on court system. So he is the agent who represents the government in front, that is, he represents the state in front of the court, and if he fails to do his duty positively, I think it ends up in acquittal of the case. And also I tell you, They should not use any unfair means of or defend the accused. What happens is, when he is supporting, or see, not necessary that there should be a positive support from the prosecution. If he even loses his interest in conducting the case, it is like you're supporting the accused for the case. And they should record the evidence and cross examine the witness. All these are very necessary on the part of public prosecution, that is prosecution department, which is again under the government. I tell you, the lacuna that we have on prosecution department is the lack of public prosecutors, qualified public prosecutors. And it may be even special PPs, if we talk about in the high court also, where the interest is very less because they are loaded with, burdened with so much cases, that they cannot give equal interest to all the cases. They just fairly represent in the court, and that's all. And last important, before I take up defense counsel as a separate one, we know that major pillar of this criminal justice system is courts. So in India, as long as history and glorious, long glorious history reveals that it has fulfilled the purpose of delivering justice to the victim, in bringing and also in helping the laws and fair trials in the court. Why? Because interpretation of laws, if the court had not done it so effectively, maybe today we wouldn't, even myself also wouldn't have taken up the profession of law. So I tell you, when we take up law, it is the courts have played a very major role, because at the end it is the court. So administration of criminal justice in the country, and it has made that justice system very strong through various pronouncement of judgments. See, sometimes we don't see those provision of law in the substantive laws, but still courts have brought them in the pronouncements. So this is why we say court is the backbone or the main pillar of criminal justice system. See, the foregoing criminal justice system, it reveals that the role court plays here, that is very important. Why? Because impartial justice to victim. Why? Because, as I told, public have hope only at court. So public prosecutor, if he is not doing his duty, or police, if they fail to do their duty, so who has to uphold this? Who has to question this? It is definitely the court. So in order to achieve the purpose, that is, there is a clear hierarchy of criminal courts in the country. We have it in the procedure. So we know that Supreme Court, High Court. After that, in Indian judiciary, the strongest court, the power which vests in the court, is not High Court or Supreme Court. It is the district and session court. Why? Because they have the power to convict an accused for imprisonment for life as well as death penalty. High Court just confirms it. Supreme Court just confirms it on an appeal. But it is the district court where the trial is taken up, and it has the power to convict a person for imprisonment for life. But still, see, there are so many guidelines given for sexual harassment cases, heinous cases, that the trial has to be conducted in these things, these many days. And also, till accused is proved guilty, he would be presumed to be innocent. So court cannot see him like a villain, like, oh, he has actually committed, just because media portrays him as, in trial media, that he is the actual culprit. So we also see, even though court is functioning, and we have brought various amendment in 2019, that is after Vishaka was a state of Rajasthan, and also Nirbhaya's case, 2013 amendment brought a very drastic change. But still, some reforms are mandatory in the criminal justice system for the social justice, because if I have to rely on the survey, that is of 2022, because now we have reached 23. In 2022, 4.7 crore cases are pending in the country. Just imagine. And we see every year, outcome of law students also is at the peak, but still they're getting into judiciary, and also people getting into practice, but still the pendency is 4.7 crore. That is in 2022. There is a need of reform. The laws and criminal justice system must concern on specially speedy trial and speedy justice, because we are known to the notion that justice is nothing but justice denied. And also, for one more reform, which as a practitioner I would say, is that is, prison is totally filled with under trials. I tell you, 70% of the prison population in 2020, if I have to see the survey of again, it is under trials. It is not the fresh people. The fresh people now and then they get in, but 70% of the population in the prison consists of these under trial prisoners. Don't you think this is infringement of fundamental right to life under Article 21 for an under trial? Because the trial is not speeding up from since a longer time he's inside the prison for just fighting his trial. And further, lack of judges, because now we know that number of judicial officers being appointed and we see drastic changes, but still, how much case can a judge take up from morning to evening? And they have their own reasons. It is not necessary that it's only because of the judge that the case is getting delayed. We are also responsible to the system. And also it puts pressure on the judiciary that increase in number of cases and pendency. This pendency, it is again Supreme Court pressurizes on the lower courts for disposal. So I tell you, like approximately the case disposal in the month, they have this quota system also. Every month a judge has to dispose this many cases. Why is this target fixed for judges? Why? Because speed up of cases. And also I tell you, ineffectiveness of this justice system. Ineffectiveness is where sometimes an accused gets easily escape, that is get acquitted, maybe where because the joint system, that is the prosecution, that is the police, and where they fail to do their mandatory duty, and delivery of justice, it affects in the court system where the judge becomes ineffective because they failed in their duty, even though there is substantive proof or substantiveness of an accused being committed. So this is a situation where accused easily escapes from the liability, and an innocent person has to spend their rest of life in prison. It may be due to like a few political influences. See, I don't say positively it is happening on the judiciary, but in an indirect way in a higher judiciary, we definitely see why, because it is, you know, that all three organs function hand in hand. It's not separate. So, but in lower judiciary, I tell you, it is conviction, sorry, acquittal is one where prosecution failed to prove it beyond the reasonable doubt. Another one is lack of evidence against the accused. This is very important. So the reforms which the Malimat committee, which was appointed, also recommended that criminal justice system needs to be where the issue of pendency, especially speeding up, we had fast track cases, fast track courts to dispose of cases. And also committee recommended various changes. See, latest I tell you, most of the offenses against women and other heinous crimes, the victim compensation is being recommended. That is, the court awards victim compensation. That is one beautiful change which is brought, that court awards like 1 lakh, 2 lakh damages, like as a compensation by the accused to be paid to the victim's family. And I tell you, even the district legal service authority and state legal service authority will fix up a victim under a victim compensation scheme, certain amount of compensation for victim, especially who has undergone the offense of rape or any offenses relating to women 350s and the 375, it may be any of those. So it is made suggested that police system in the country is definitely accountable and transparent. Why? Because these are connected, chain link. Why? Because if police are not conducting their investigation, prosecution cannot bring up the case very effectively, and prosecution fails it, then it is on the court to set the accused free. So this is how it is. And appointment of prosecution is very important. At last I bring it, these four play a very important role in criminal law and social justice, to uphold the social justice. And also lastly, it is the defense counsel, that is we advocates. Why? Because defending an accused is no offense. Sometimes we must not take it so too seriously to take it up to our conscience, but it is our duty under the law to defend the accused, because till he is proved guilty, he is presumed to be innocent. So here, to take up the trial, to take, because it is the fundamental right of the accused to engage the counsel as for whatever he wishes. If he is not able to, then the legal service authority would give him legal aid, where constitution directive principles of state policy, that is under article 39A, mandates legal assistance for the accused. So free legal aid. Here, defense counsel also plays an important role in cross-examination, in trying to defend the accused, to prove that there was no mens rea, there was no components of the charged offenses, and to set him free because he has not committed. Not every crime is with intention. So it is major duties on the defense counsel. He has to be more. That is, major duty is to defend him. And you know that sometimes the offense might have been committed intentionally also, but it is your duty. The confidential clause, the professional ethics guides you from not opening that to anybody, and but only defending your client with reasonable best effects. That is, if you don't have efforts on your case, then you also fail in upholding social justice to your client. So with this, I think I have just given an insight about what is that important as a in a criminal justice system, that and social justice. So it is both all these organs, that is all three, I mean all these which I mentioned play a very major role in upholding the justice system, without which functioning of criminal justice system and administration of criminal justice system becomes very difficult. If you have any doubts, if you have any clarifications to be made, you're free to ask me. Chandra, can is there an option for them to raise up for their issues? You can drop your message in the chat box. I would really love to interact with people. Thank you. So many of you have wished me good evening, and thank you so much. If you have any clarifications on what I discussed today, you're free to put it on. Yeah, question and answer round. Yeah, I have a question here. Yeah, Mr. Praveen has a question. So you said trial period is maximum 90 days, but how come? See, it's not trial period is 90 days. It is custody, judicial custody. Beyond 30 days, now it is 90 days, extended to 90 days. He can be taken into custody for up to 90 days, judicial custody. Police custody is different. It is not trial period. Got it, Praveen? One more question. Any other questions? Any clarifications on the topic what I took up? You're free to ask. You can take some time and just get back to me with the questions if you have. Because today we lack so much of any other queries, please feel free to ask it. So it was, thank you for patient hearing for this 1 hour of the session, and enhance your knowledge on laws so that any of the system, any of the organ fails, you will have a right to question them only when you know the procedure of law. And that is when you know the laws in a very confined, proper way. Otherwise, I tell you, you will not have a right to question it because you're not acquainted with proper knowledge on it. So that's all for the evening. I can still hope if you have any questions, please do drop it in the chat box or in the question and answer, that is question this way. So anything else, please get back. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. That was really great to have an audience for a long to hear this. Have a great evening.